Barton is if you're going towards like back from here to your place, Ashgrove. It's a suburb to the right hand side, basically.
Okay.
Between here and Milton.
Okay, so it is close to the run club.
Yeah. So I can go to the runs and come back here. But from next week, my training starts to shift towards what have I got written down? More so like pull-ups. So it's like more pull-ups.
Fucking one arms.
No. It's a bit of bodybuilding. Yeah. So less powerlifting for a little bit. Although I'll still be doing it, just not as heavy. A bit more of a balance of that. Olympic lifting. More running towards the tail end of the longer runs. Because at the moment, the run's just not working out for me in the timing. Yeah. But then 2 days of dedicated handstand work. On Thursdays and on Sundays is a plan, but I've got to actually prepare it through. So I think that doco you sent me, I think I'll probably borrow from the beginner and the intermediate sections and do a few of those.
You'll conveniently overlook the prerequisites of what is required.
Well, I was going to get it to go through ChatGPT and get it to spit out a few of those things.
Nice man. Sounds like you got a plan, man. I've got a fucking plan for training if I can actually get around.
If you can actually train.
Do it. Love to. I had a interesting. Everyone's coming out of the woodworks, man.
What do you mean?
So, just look at this conversation and tell me what you think of it. Probably just from, and look at the timestamps as well. So there's a dude I met at the Calisthenics Park quite a while ago. His name's Jesse, small Asian guy, who is also gay. I know that he's gay. He's told me this.
Midnight. 12:17. After 1 year of basically not talking.
So he's called out of the woodworks. I'm guessing he wants some D.
Oh no. And he's taking Karen for the D train.
Yeah. I got a message.
I thought you were about to be like, so he was a very good dick sucker.
Yeah. I got a message from Andrea.
Oh, so did I. Yeah, so did I actually.
Oh,
Yeah. More so about Vienna. But what she's like.
Interesting. She was like, hey, I wanna have a chat. So I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Let me just see if this is. She's like, hey, I can hear that. Cool. So that one's live. And I'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
I believe we are live now.
Okay. Hello for everyone out there.
So the video froze.
Good.
Oh no, it's good. Let me test my mic. Let's just try the music as well. We'll see how that goes.
Okay. Nice. What else did I do? We also had a friend's birthday yesterday. Where I can probably publicly share this because we decided it would be a good idea.
Check.
It was day drinking. So
Yeah.
the best type of day drinking.
Good stuff.
But for whatever reason, me and my lovely partner decided it was the right idea to buy bottle service while we were there.
Where were you?
At Maya, Mexico.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Sure. And we were trying to calculate the amount of drinks that we actually had. So
Oh, no.
we're like, oh no, that was quite a bit. But because it was day drinking, we feel relatively okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is good.
Yeah.
That was
good,
nice stuff.
good. I went to the casino last night.
Last night?
Yeah, with
Nice.
Brendan.
Okay.
He got to meet.
Oh, with Brendan?
Yeah, he
Cool.
got to meet
Meet
Daddy
Dad?
Dan.
Ooh, yeah,
Hung out
okay.
together.
What did Daddy Dan think about Brendan?
Yeah. Said he was cool. Yeah,
Okay.
enjoyed chatting with him.
Good.
Said he was. So he did give him some politics as well. And
Who did, Brendan or your dad?
No, Dad.
Okay.
And he approved with Brendan's takes on things. So.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's,
Is Daddy Dan pro-Trump? Or just anti-US?
No, he was more Trump than not.
Okay. I mean, that's a general US consensus as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. And just won't touch things.
Yep.
And
That's all running.
look at this, right on time. Killing it.
Woo!
Post that. Even got time to post the things. Fuck. Just killing it today. That's what happens when you
Unbelievable.
get up at 3 a.m. Well, get time to do shit.
I'm telling you, there's a reason getting up so early.
Let me see if this is live here. Any experience with that kind of therapy?
I don't know.
Ask Dimmelix what kind of therapy he means.
What kind of therapy do you mean?
Yeah, okay, increase that one. Nice. Cool. Alright. Ready to run this? You'll run this one, Mike?
Yeah.
Cool. Alright. Turn up the sound a little bit. Here we go.
Oh, yes, we are. Welcome back, Mere Mortal Lines, to another edition of the Mere Mortals Musing edition. You've got Juan here.
And Karen on the other side.
It is the 10th of November, 2024. And we are pumped, amped to have a conversation about... Oh, no. What has Karen forgotten? He's he's forgotten his water. Already mental health is declining. We are talking about mental health today, Mere Mortal Lights. This was a topic that I kind of thought about to have a bit of a chat about. The reason was, more than anything as well, was we've talked about it in the past, in the podcast, in more defined versions of it, some of the ways that it's impacted. I kind of gave you... I like the way that we structured it last time. We had kind of like two main parts. And then we'll sandwich the Boostergrams and a couple of other supporter notes in the middle. I'm liking that sort of setup. But maybe a couple of things that I've listened to or occurred in the past where I went, oh, might be an interesting thing to talk about. One, it's November at the moment, and so November is Movember. Oh, wow, no fap, or what is it? What?
Nom nod.
Yeah, nom or whatever it is that Tim called it. But it was also the Movember sort of movement.
It is.
And
it is.
I was actually originally thinking...
Well, what is Movember for people who might not know what that is? It might be an Aussie thing. Right?
Movember. It isn't. No, it is global, I'm pretty sure. Movember is it... I'll actually look it up because let's make sure we get it. I was going to say
I think it's just like to raise awareness of mental health. It's one of those.
Well, I don't know
right?
if it was specifically just mental
generic.
health or if also was testicular cancer. I can't remember if it's just that. Maybe it is just mental health. But it was, here we go, from the actual website. It's time to unite, take on mental health, suicide, prostate cancer. Oh no, it literally just skips when I was reading it. Prostate cancer and testicular cancer. So, so it's a bit in amongst all those things. And every year...
November is for men, women.
Not go away.
Listen.
Wait, no. Well, no, because they changed it. I don't know if they changed it or they've always had this, but they've got two main sections, I understand it. There's the, obviously, growing the Mo. Although, way back in the day, I remember doing some charity work or raising funds for Movember, and you'd get the little, like, sticky, like, mustaches that, like, females could put on as well to treat it.
That,
But then there's also the move part of Movember. So, you can set to do 6 kilometers of walking or running or 100 kilometers. So, a couple of things. I thought every year November comes around, I've always got these grand plans around Movember because not for growing a mo, because one, I look like a dirty Mexican if I wear a mo. That's so definite. And I've done it once and it was terrible. It was so terrible. But I'm always like, 2 years ago, I did the movement aspect of it. And I think it was 100 kilometers in total over the month of movement, which I did. And I was like, that was really cool. And I had all these dreams of, right at the beginning, I'm going to do one of those series things that I've done in the past. I don't have no time for that. I haven't had any time or haven't allocated time for it. So I thought, okay, maybe talking about mental health in general, that might be like a good little grouping of it. So that's one thing. Two, I'm seeing a lot of people doing a lot of move escapades that I guess are in support for mental health. I just thought it'd be interesting to call it out yesterday where we were just talking about it before the podcast began. I didn't go for a run at my local sort of running place that we do, but there was some guy there for Movember who was running a half marathon every 4 hours for 24 hours. So I was like, So it was, so in the end, I think he'd have to do like 7 half marathons in a 24-hour
Jesus.
period or 28-hour period, whatever that ends up working out. So, you know, there's other people going for
What the hell?
pretty extreme sort of forms of getting the runs in. So I'm assuming he was doing, you know, a half marathon in maybe 2.5 hours, resting for an hour and a bit, and then going again and going again and going again.
He'd have to be pretty quick too.
Yeah. So he's
that.
a relatively known runner here in Brisbane. Not fast, but obviously he can do long distances. So again, pretty great. I think his name's
not
Macca.
fast.
What?
Jeez.
I think it's Macca, his name. He's probably not his actual name, but it's his like nickname, Macca. So that sort of came up as well. And then most recently, I got to interact with Chris Williamson, and at the show that he did here in Brisbane, that was on Wednesday, that just went by. And in that conversation, he kind of opened up in part of it around a few things. If people have listened to his show, talked about the lonely chapter, it was something I wanted to talk about, I guess, in a more broader context. Mm-hmm. And then the other aspect of it as well was, I guess, like he called it like champagne problems, or when type A people have type B problems and type B people have type A problems. Everyone kind of gathers around and pats everyone on the back when if they're type B and have type A problems. But if
I don't think type
A,
B is a thing either.
I've never actually heard that particular.
Yeah, I don't think that's a category. Ago. I think
type A and everything else.
Yeah.
But have you heard the concept of type A people having underwhelming, maybe less desirable problems, let's just say, versus people who are aspirationally trying to get to something else? Have you heard of that?
More
variation?
just like they've already climbed the mountain and it's lonely up there or something.
Well, and we can get into that definition, but these are like all the various reasons that I went, okay, cool. Sure. Mental health, that's probably an overall concept.
Good preamble there.
Yeah. So the first like the big category that I want to talk about.
All right, let me do a definition first, because this is honestly one of the most dystopian definitions I've ever come across.
Oh no, this is your own? Or just one you found?
This is what so if you just, type in mental health definition, comes up with this. Mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. And why I think this is dystopian is it's telling you what your mental health should be and what you should be doing with your life. You should be learning. You should be working. You should be contributing to your community.
Yep, Karen's failed this whole.
Honestly, I found this insulting to me in the coping with the stresses of life. Therefore implying that you should be having stresses of life or seeking them out, perhaps. And I just went like, I find that actually a really shitty definition, because that's really just saying it's really telling you like this is what your life is all about. You just got to do these things, and you have to mentally cope with doing these things. I much prefer if just going outside of, and that's from the World Health Organization. If you type that in, like it's just website after website saying basically these exact same things.
Right. Okay.
If you go into Wikipedia, as usual, some of the best definitions out there, and that was talking more about autonomy, this is intergenerational dependence.
Whatever
that means.
Dependence.
So maybe not that. I have no idea, actually. I just copied it. Self-actualization of one's intellectual and emotional potential, amongst others. And then positive psychology, creating a balance between life activities and psychological resilience, things like that.
Okay.
I found that more so no real definition here other than like some dodgy definitions.
Needs better definition.
Yeah.
No definition about needs better definitions.
And that actually will get into my first narrative, but yeah, you give me your...
And that was going to be basically my starting point for us, which was more along the lines of the construct or the narrative, or what I guess is deemed by mental health in its generality, right? So I wanted to ask you, basically, maybe a lead into that first point. Do you think how we are defining mental health is actually making us worse? Is the narrow idea that maybe gets propagated like what you're seeing there, or by any high level throw of what mental health should be, is that actually making it worse than maybe some alternative?
I don't know about worse, but it's certainly fuzzy and hazy from the way people speak about it, even just the definition I went into there. It's like it's just a one-off thing, but then it's like, well, if someone typed mental health into any search engine, they're probably going to come up with some stuff that that might not be helpful. So I guess my answer to your question, another question is, can poor mental health be fixed mentally? So
can poor mental health be fixed mentally?
So, for example, I don't ever hear it phrased that way, because if people talk about like I've got to fix my mental health, or I've got bad mental health, what do they talk about? I'm gonna take time off work. I'm going to perhaps go onto some sort of medication that'll allow me to do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever heard someone talk about, all right, I'm going to think harder.
I'm going to think my way out of this poor mental health.
Exactly. And so it's kind of one of those ones where it's like, well, we're talking about mental health, but you're not actually doing anything mentally, really. The only thing that comes even close to that is maybe doing some meditation, which is almost the opposite of mental. You're trying to not mentally
think, yeah.
And so I was just going like, should this actually just go into the category of health? Because a lot of the things we'll talk about later are physical things that you can do to fix your mental health. And I'm not sure there's actually that much mental things which contribute into to doing it.
Yeah, okay. No, that's a good point. So I think I'm going to jump off the deep end here. I'm going to step off the cliff because, firstly, and I will say, most definitely me and Karen are not some sort of doctors that know the detailed definitions of some of these things.
No.
I'm sure there are very specific causes and imbalances, some things that you probably need to get prescribed and looked after. But as a whole, and I think it was the first part section I want to talk about was more so it's like narrative. And this was the example I wanted to give from Chris Williamson has said it quite a few times, and I think others. And it's not from him; it's from Alex Hormozy. But it's basically the lonely chapter. Have you heard him talk about this at all before?
Vaguely.
I'll roughly describe it, and in essence, it's the chapter, and it can happen multiple times when you're moving from being surrounded by either the people or the things that you're doing or the actions that you're undertaking, but you want to escalate to this next point. And so an example for Karen, let's just say, would be perhaps you're training with people who are liking to do their training with maybe a little bit of running and some of the calisthenics. Mm-hmm. But in fact, to get to a one-handed handstand, you need to spend 2 to 3 hours, maybe in solitude, maybe not, but just doing this particular thing. You can't be discussing with them about something else. You need to pursue this particular thing.
It's not a community task to learn how to do it.
Sure.
It's a very individual thing.
Yeah, okay. So there's an individual thing. I guess the example that he gives a lot of is, I guess for himself, because Chris Williamson, on doing a podcast, he puts just before he came to Australia, he did like one podcast interview per day for maybe it was like a week and a bit.
Yeah, a lot of research. So,
line up, all the research, the reading, all the stuff that he does. And so in that, he has to not go and interact with people, not go and do these things. Maybe your particular friendship group might be, whatever, this, but to get you to this next chapter or to the next step to whatever you're looking to do, which has a new group of people, a new group of interactions, new set of actions, you get stuck somewhere in the middle. And that middle is, I guess he deems as the lonely chapter. And I think you can place a narrative around that and call it of bad mental health, or you can place it in, I don't have to say bad, it's just, that's my mental health is declining because I'm going through this and I'm feeling bad about this. And feeling bad or feeling bad mentally could be, inside any action that's happening, anything that you don't think the expectations being met. But I think it's that narrative, it's that word, expectation of being met, that's where a lot of the more general downfalls will come to. Because when I heard that, and say I've experienced it in the past with working where I was to what I'm doing nowadays, I still have a lot of, let's just say, friends that I hang around with that I did back in the day. But there's definitely some people or some moments through, let's say, a couple of years where you could call it lonely chapter in the sense that, I wasn't engaging as much socially. I was doing a lot of my own things. But it wasn't like my expectation was set in, no, but I still want to have to have all these various things. Maybe it was by default lucky that it's like that. Maybe I'm just internally, I might come across as a more sociable person, but I do enjoy my solitude in doing those things. And so that didn't feel like it was a downside. It was like, no, this is good. This is what I need to do around it. But pulling it back, I was like, I think it's the narrative and the expectation that you set that can really set forth my mental health is declining or not declining.
Could even just be it's not the right term for it, because if we had to think about it, probably 70% of bad mental health is maybe just loneliness, and then you've got the serious stuff, schizophrenia.
Like the serious stuff, like then I guess we'd say stuff that is almost involuntarily causing you damage.
Yeah.
Hormonal imbalances, something else where you can't outthink, nor can you out action them. It's okay, you need some sort of external support in some manner or form.
And I should clarify, not that loneliness is not serious, but there's I think we could agree that probably being lonely and then having schizophrenia are
two different things.
Reading the book on the Noonday Demon, I like to refer to this one because it was all about depression. That kind of mental health where he goes through the whole list of it, and essentially a 700-page book, putting it down into like 2 sentences, was there are some things which you cannot overcome just through what would I call it?
Like sheer will alone.
Sheer willpower. There are things. Another good book was forgotten. I'm actually, my mental health must be going down. I'm remembering books. Kay Redfield Jameson was her name, and it was a book about she had something that needed lithium to help her stay on the line. Lithium was basically the thing that would break her out of this cycle. It's really disappointing that I've forgotten that. Anyway, Juan's looking it up.
Nothing was the same? Nothing was the same?
No,
a couple of
wasn't
books
that
that she's done.
Yeah. What are some of the others?
An Unquiet Mind?
Yeah, I think it was that one.
Okay.
And is it like a blue book cover?
Black book cover. Night Falls Fast?
Nah, An Unquiet Mind sounds
Okay.
right.
I know. You're hearing live right now on mental health,
health
declining as we forget things.
well, I mean, that's probably another thing as well that maybe is not talked about as much. So one, probably loneliness is probably it's probably easier to say, I'm struggling with my mental health, rather than saying like I'm struggling with loneliness. It's probably more acceptable, socially acceptable to say that, which is one thing. And then sure, your mental health, like your IQ declines as you're getting older, and certainly your mental capabilities struggle much more as well.
Actually, that's a good point, because maybe it's missing its precision.
It's just a big term, man. It covers a lot of things.
It's missing precision because when you say, so if someone came to you and said, "Oh, my mental health is declining," now and just that little talk that we just had, then I would default in saying, "Yeah, but I guess what about what specifically is it that's feeling that way?"
Start with
because there's a distinction between. And I guess we'll say with yourself, right? When you were going through everything with your mum over the last year, let's just say, there was times of sadness and suffering and down periods. And you could generalize it in the sense of, oh yes, my mental health is declining during this time because I'm having to go through this. I don't think that's...
I wouldn't have put it that way, but
I was going to say, I don't think it's an incorrect thing to say, but I don't think that it is precise enough for it to be correct either. So it's not, you can't tell someone that it's wrong as a narrative, which is what makes it challenging, because you can't say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, subject, it is. Yeah. But you could get a little bit more tight with that definition to what it is. But even stepping beyond that, I think maybe for you, it also wasn't like you weren't expecting it to be the case either, which then moved you towards a more, oh yes, it's a known suffering, it's a known pain, it's known things to do. And as you say, it wasn't that you were had things that you had to, like you were unwilling to face, unable to progress with. It was, these are all relatively known expectations that I have to do, which is why I guess, and maybe we're not like this, but at least with our friends, we've never really had the conversation or had anyone heard of us talk about like, oh man, my mental health is real bad. None of us really talking that out.
Maybe if someone's in the hospital because they've just been hit by a car, for example, and they're just got a diagnosis, we're going to have to amputate your leg or a foot or something. It's kind of expected that they're not going to be mentally in a great place from that, and so I'm not sure if people talk about mental health there because it's just like your health is fucked up in general. So yeah, mental health seems to apply the most, like make the most sense when it's everything's going pretty good with your life or is on track or seems to be all right, but you're still not in perhaps enjoying life. You know, you're not feeling as much pleasure from that as you thought you would, perhaps, and so that can explain, you know, depression when there's no real cause for depression. You just, you know, you just had a beautiful child or something, everything's going good, work's going good, and yet you're clinically depressed or you're super depressed. So that seems to be when mental health makes the most sense.
But why is it? Okay, so why is that narrative of mental health not being something that our friendship group or maybe even the people that I know around me
we're
really
strong?
I've really talked about it.
We're mentally strong
because it's never been a thing that's been in any friendship group that I've been in. I've seen people who will post on social media to say, "Yep, support mental health. It is a crisis. There is these difficulties amongst everyone, male, female, whoever." You could be precise about what it is that they're feeling that way. But, you know, I've seen people post about it. Yeah. When it comes to talking about it like face-to-face or discussing it, maybe it's a case of people just don't want to talk about it. But in generalness, it just doesn't. Yeah,
it does seem to be more a female thing in that sense. The argument against that's that, you know, males cover it up and society's to blame or men are to blame for machismo sort of thing. You don't talk about your problems, or if you do, no one listens. So, you know, you learn to not talk about them, something like that.
The other way, Chris Williamson posted about how Chris Bumstead said it in, like, they had a podcast conversation, whatever, a couple of months ago. And it was like, oh, it takes like enough man points or for you to have succeeded in such an amount of ways so that you can open up and be vulnerable. Because it's like, oh, well, if you've got a random guy who is, you know, a random person and they open up, like, they feel like a little bit too, like, oh, I'm not going to open up. Nobody's going to care. I'm not going to say anything. But if you're a super accomplished person and then you open up and you say, oh, yeah, but there's these challenges and all these things, then it's like, oh, well done. Yeah, you're like the top bodybuilder or you're top whatever, and you're able to open and express. Yeah, you can talk about all your problems. So I think you're sort of saying that, like, you need enough man points to be able to open up, which maybe I can stand socially that as a concept. But again, I kind of call bullshit on that either. I go,
yeah. Once again, is having problems in your life, does that constitute bad mental health? I'm
and that's what I'm saying.
Dubious on that.
This is the definition that I think would be nice, because when I read out about the Movember piece, right, and this comes into why is it so important. Because again, the narrative, you can't actually fix something if you're too generic with the idea. If you go into something, if someone came to me or you or anyone came to us and talked about it, I've got poor mental health. I don't know where I would begin telling you, apart from maybe saying like a very general, train better, sleep better, eat better. Like, I can't, there's no much more that you can detail beyond that. You'd have to kind of inquire underneath it. Some of the others that the Movember Foundation said, right? Testicular cancer, prostate cancer, pretty defined on either the things you can do or how you can treat it or how you can spot it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty cut and dry. But it is very different to say, if you came home after a long day, 2 weeks ago, let's just say, I've said to you, I think I've said to a couple of you, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday were heavy days. I was up at around 4 a.m, finishing up at about 10 p.m. There was probably an hour in there of eating and another hour of family time. The rest was work, right? And by the time it got to Thursday and Friday, I felt, I guess the way that I would describe it was like coiled up. Like, I was coiled up in terms of I need to be doing more because I was just so on edge from all the work that I've been doing. Friday took me forever to just kind of unwind, and then the weekend to be what I would say more present, more in the moment, not so anxious and not parasympathetic, but like just in that mode of like, go, I've got danger, I got to go. I wouldn't describe that as bad mental health. Like, I wouldn't, if we talked about it, it wouldn't even fit within that, because it would just be more of a definition, I guess, in my mind of, oh, it was challenging, that was hard, there was lots of things to do, there was less sleep, there was less training, but it wasn't, like, that was unexpected. That wasn't anything different. And if someone came with that exact scenario and talked to me and said, oh, I think my mental health has declined, I don't know what I could do to help in that situation if you would describe it in that way.
Well, it's like you know, you said you had some drinks last night. I had 3 as well.
I had 14.
We could, jeez. We both could say our physical health has declined right now, but you know that it's kind of absurd saying that because it's just like it's a one-off thing. So I had written down here like, you know, it depends on the time scale. So on a day-to-day, if we're going to look at it like that, you could say your mental health's all over the place. Some days are really good, some days are bad. This week, for example, I wasn't able to train, and normally that would like eat away at me. And so even though I had a reason for this week to be shitter, I've actually been pretty good. Been like, all right, well, you know, fuck it. There's life. There's, you know, if you try and do hard things, you're gonna face setbacks and stuff like that. Whatever, that's fine. And yet, if I compare to last month, where perhaps I had like was more dialed in, everything was going good, and then I have like a tiny little setback, or I'll find myself like ruminating on like, oh man, I can't get this girl or a girl or something like that. It's been, you know, so long since I've had someone like really caring for me in the like partner sort of sense. I could take that snapshot of an hour of rumination and be like, oh, that was really bad mental health. And then I compare it to when I was a teenager, where I was not depressed in the sense of that book I was talking about, the really bad depression, but certainly like I wasn't happy. And I spent a long time being not really happy. I don't know if I've talked about this before. I had a panic attack or two in those days so this is like
when you were younger?
Yeah, like probably I'd say like 15 through 20.
Okay.
They were internally for myself, like on my own, not great years. And you know, mostly just anxiety, things like that. And then beating myself up. And it was particularly, once again, about women. Like I just couldn't talk to women. It was, you know, too scary. Would shudder to even think about it. I actually went to therapy for, I don't know, maybe like
a few times.
Like 8 sessions or something. And it actually didn't do anything for me. It certainly didn't help my mental health. That only happened when I made the decision, like, I need to fix this. And there was a kind of trigger for that. But that was the thing that actually really helped.
Let's highlight that. You said, fix this. So at that point, did you know what this meant? Which I guess it was the inability to wanting to talk to females.
Yeah. Or not wanting to, the ability
to talk to females. But I think that's a distinction because, okay, again, this whole section I want to talk about is the narrative of mental health. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist because there is a mental health. There is a grouping of mental health. I just think that the definition of it is unwise to use. It's unhelpful to use. If you're really talking about the definition of it, like you explained there, someone could very rightfully say between the years of 15 and 20, like, oh, my mental health declining. I am not happy. You can say these objective measures of things. Maybe you could even say like maybe your blood pressure is this. Again, as long as it's not something chemically related in your brain or otherwise, okay? I'm not talking about those. But in that description that you said, you got to a point where you actually knew what it was that was causing the symptoms, right? Which I guess most often maybe it's a skill. So part of it could be attitude, part of it is skill. That what you just defined there was skill. And then there was a differentiation between, okay, well, I want to be able to speak to women and talk to them. And the expectation may be set at a point where other people are doing it, so I should be doing it, but you're not. And so the expectation is different because you're not achieving what you want to be doing. And so it's a skill set that you don't have. Hence, you're not happy about it. And that's the cause of unhappiness. That description is way better because then you can do something about it. And I guess maybe we're thinking about it in more foundational ways than saying, oh yeah, my mental health has declined, because you could have gone to the psychiatrist, or you could have gone to anyone and tell them like, oh, my mental health is declining. And you would still have to dig on down to find, okay, what's the actual reason that, because I'm sure during that time, you also had loads of things that were going well for you.
Yeah. The actually it kind of makes me think. So I didn't tell the therapist like the real reason. I already knew what it was, but it was one of those things where it's like I didn't want to talk about this to someone. I didn't want to like admit weakness. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. I wonder how many people So for people who have no idea why they're depressed or struggling with something, even though everything's going good with their life, that's where SSRIs and things like that make sense to me. Actually, medicinal interventions. I wonder how many people who are on those sorts of things secretly, like deep down inside, know exactly what it is that's bothering them. You know, they're with a partner they shouldn't be with. They don't have the courage or something to confront a family member. They've got really, deep-seated traumas, we'll use the word, in the past that they're still struggling with and don't know how to overcome, perhaps. That's probably another thing where it's on that gray area of like, well, how do you fix this if it's, what's happened to you, but you don't know how to let it go or how to assimilate that into your life and who you are as a person now. I don't know. It's a very tricky topic.
It is very tricky. I think where I ended up like summarizing it for me around what it means for the narrative of the conversation of mental health, because you're right, when you're maybe just most people just don't generally want to talk about, let's just say bad, because fucking, does anyone talk about good mental health? Like, is that a thing that generally, I don't think people talk about.
Yeah.
Whenever people say mental health, I think they talk about it in a
always in a
negative
bad
form.
sense.
Yeah. What about good mental health? I think more, if anyone's listening to this, or if anyone ever came to talk to me about it, or even myself, I would hope maybe the path forward around bad mental health or that feeling is leverage as a form of help the conversation then get to, okay, what is it? What's the skill or attitude or the interaction that's causing all of these bad things? And I think that's where you can find the definition of, if it's a skill thing, cool. You can learn how to do that. There's many a way to do that. If it's chemical or something else, or something's happened or you need more professional help, okay, then you know that you're going to have to go and take some certain steps. But sticking at the level of just, I'm just having a bad mental health, and then almost like using that narrative to go and do other more destructive things or not do things, well, that's just worse. Like you're not helping yourself. You're not aiding anyone if you're trying to give them just like even just general consensus. Like that's not helpful. I think you need to break it down into more specificity. That's the dangerous of mental health. Yeah,
it's kind of like physical health as well. Like you can rabbit on about the optimal nutrition, the optimal diet, the optimal physical exercise regime all the time, 24 hours a day. But it's going to be pretty individual for every person as well, and depending on your culture and your genes. So it's one of those hard things that's really hard to like give recommendations on. But we're going to still try it anyway.
Oh yeah. That's going to be a second part. We're going to give you some recommendations. But I think we had to set the scene on how we think on some of these things.
Just don't be doctors on the internet. Fuck it. Dr. Down over here.
Dr. Down over here is going to tell you what to do. All right, let's just pause. We'll give you some fun boostergrams.
Yeah. Let's do it. So for those who are wondering what is a boostergram? Boostergram is a show of support. Someone out there has said, I value the mere mortals. I'm going to send them some Satoshis to help keep this running, to show that I love them. And they'll sometimes add a message on that. And you can do that in a modern podcasting app. Ones like Fountain, Podcast Guru, Podverse, True Fans, Customatic. Those are all decent ones. If you go to meremortalspodcast.com/support, we've got a little section on there of links to those, as well as why you might want to support us.
That's correct. Now, Bitcoin prices have been going up. Dramatically so.
It's true. All-time highs.
Let's go,
baby.
Kyron Money Downs over here next to me with the increase.
My mental health is
going
very good.
That's another problem. I would say when you attach your mental well-being or mental state to external factors that you cannot influence,
sure,
you're in for some bad times. However, everyone does this. Let me tell you, everyone does this. I think it's more knowing that that's happening helps you to part away from it, as opposed to trying to improve it in other forms. Like if you were really attracted or attached to money, and you saw Bitcoin and like all the assets that you have go up, and then you become happy, I do not think the solution is, I'll just, like, if it goes back down, I will try and think of something else, or like move away from it. I actually have to be like, no, you have to identify and try to pair yourself away from that particular attachment. Otherwise, the attachment's always going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be trying to sidestep it. Like, you might not tell people, but it's always going to be there.
Yeah. See, right at this stage, I'm what is known as pre-rich. Then I'm gonna get to rich, and there might even be a phase where I'm post-rich.
Oh,
but
no.
it's all about how you phrase it.
How you phrase it. We've got a couple of boosts here. They're all from not all from Peter. There's one different one here, which is very nice. So thank you very much for those who are supporting, as well as always, who are streaming. We got Peter. I'm not exactly sure why, but I like listening to these. I don't know in particular which one it was.
He would have meant the last episode.
Okay.
The one.
New tagline, small conversations on everyday topics.
Yep.
Small conversations on everyday topics.
It's not too bad.
Do we do small conversations and those things? Maybe.
Conversation.
If I do a couple of my own, I might even use that as well. Small conversations and everyday topics. But thank you very much, Peter. That's a really nice little tag.
Peter.
I like it.
Many,
that's 2,222 sats.
Row of ducks.
Sent using Fountain Row of Ducks. Thank you very much. Quack, quack. Very good. The second one by Peter. He says, I might have become the out-of-touch old guy in the room, but I still remain wildly unenthusiastic about the world-changing aspects of AI in the next few years. Man, they're going to change hardcore. As far as I can see, AI amounts to clever Google searches and an original media creation on apps which mainly appeal to high school kids, Insta, TikTok, etc. Mm-hmm. Okay. Furthermore, if AI can make your job obsolete, then I wagered your job was largely unnecessary to begin with, and you probably should have been fired years ago.
See, I
2,222 sats.
I think he's answered his own question there. I would posit, I don't know, 80% of the work done by people in this world is useless, and I very much put myself in that category when I had an office job. I would have said 80% of the work I was doing was just not needed and or unhelpful.
Yeah,
and could have been automated.
I think this is correct because, so to your point, Peter, I would say the changing aspect of AI is it's going to reduce a lot of redundancies that exist in the world at large, because there's a whole host of it. I think it's when it comes
it'll introduce a whole bunch more, but hopefully it's just the robots.
Yeah,
redundant.
However, and this is the other example in just because I'm reading it at the moment, so it comes as a story. Was it like around 2016, 2017, 2018, like around that time frame? Elon Musk's Gigafactory and Tesla, they were trying to pump out 5,000 Teslas per week, and I think the factory that they had was a Mac, like it was generating like 1,800 a week, and they were like, "What the hell? How are we going to do this?" Now, default position in those factories was, automate everything, machines, robots, a lot of things. And one aspect that they had to do through those years was actually de-automate, because they actually found it was faster to do some things manually with some people than it was with the machine. Just in, I think the example was maybe some of like the rubbering around the car doors for sealing. Okay. The robots, for whatever reason, were like kind of janky. They missed in doing it. They actually found it's actually much quicker if you just get 2 or 3 people workers just do that and humanly put that through as possible. So, kind of a side example that I think AI is going to come and overtake things, or where it's going to feel like it's overly taking items to then people realize, it's actually not doing as good a job as what other people are doing, and then pull it back slightly. There's a couple of examples in some of the works that I'm doing at the moment where I've used AI to generate ideas or ways of doing particular things. And then when I go through a bit of an analytical review of it, I go, no, that's actually not good. You missed this, or you actually would approach it this way, or something else that you'd have to look at. So I think there's going to be that overt use of AI, pullback of AI, and then maybe you'd be left with the realities of what it's going to take up, which is maybe like those jobs with redundancies, and then slowly take over most other things.
The word itself is going to, we're already abusing it and probably using it in unhelpful ways, because what's the difference between AI and what, just normal automation that can get taken away, such as having an automatic, what's that thing on the bottom of your email, which is signature. Yep. That didn't used to be there. Someone AI'd that someday. AI just created a program. So, it's probably, there's going to be more programs out there doing more things.
I'll ask you a question actually before we move on. Will you buy a Tesla Optimus robot? Will they become available? They're going to be about 20 to 30,000 US, and maybe let's just say 50,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah, I haven't even seen the video yet. So
okay. They're claiming it can do most of your everyday chores at home, so like cooking, cleaning, most of those things.
Okay.
50 grand, automates and moves all of that out of the way. No more cooking, no more whatever else.
I don't mind cooking. I don't like cleaning, so yeah, if it can Roomba up the floors and clean the dishes, That wouldn't be too
Might be
bad.
worth it. So there you go. It's taken. But Peter, we'll appreciate that comment, mate. And the last one from Bitpunk.
When I'm rich or slightly post-rich, then maybe I'll.
Then it's time. And Bitpunk FM says, boosting from the grave, future, past. Great episode to hear some of the history of Demu and the origin. 3,333 sats and using Fountain.
Thank you, my friend. So this was the guy that I met in Bitcoin Nashville, and I actually still have his sticker here, Bitpunk FM.
Oh, very nice.
So he was he's got a couple of podcast episodes out and related to he's working on all sorts of stuff. I've forgotten his name, unfortunately. I thought it was like Tim or Tom, but I've tried looking it up before, but I couldn't find it.
All right, mate, we've just decreased your mental health because Karen can't remember your name.
Can't remember lots of things. And I can actually tell him as well, if he's listening to this episode, that he recommended a book to me called The Square and the Tower. And it's all about networks and hierarchies.
Okay.
And I just started that. It's kind of like a history book.
Cool.
So I just started that this morning, actually.
Nice.
As I was unable to sleep in the early hours of the morning. So.
Very good. Karen's going down the path of my sleep schedule. Sleeping and doing more work.
That's scary.
All right. Second part of this, and look, I don't know how deep this will go, but it's more around, I thought practical and maybe philosophical approaches to mental health. The question that I had for you, right, was, if we taught mental health, if you were trying to teach someone like a skill, as opposed to this airy-fairy sort of style, how might you try to teach your, as you were saying, your 15, 20-year-old self nowadays? What would you try to say to have tackled it maybe quicker in terms of if like what we would define as, a bad mental health? Or maybe said another way, if a 15-year-old kid comes to you now and was to say, hello, Papa Karen, I'm feeling mentally unwell, like my mental health is down, and maybe suggest a couple of things, what might you suggest to such an individual?
Oh man, I mean, if someone came to me just like that as a one-off thing, or kind of out of the blue, I would unfortunately have to default to the standard, which is adding the general stuff. Fixing your physical health can actually really help with that. So getting 8 hours sleep, eating right, getting some sunlight, physically exercising, those sorts of things. If it's someone who it's like, especially someone I can kind of train like a monkey, like I will little baby down.
Yeah.
Then I would probably be introducing more aspects of like critical thinking, of introspection, perhaps meditation of listening to your body or noticing what your own mind does. I think that can solve, or maybe not solve, but give you the tools to at least analyze what the problem is, and then once you've got the problem, that would probably be my advice. Like, all right, let's try and define the problem. Let's not try and fix anything per se yet, unless you're suicidal or something like that. Then obviously would have to put some interventions in place. But analyzing the problem and getting to like the real heart of it is probably what I would recommend if someone was coming to me and asking or saying something like that. Yeah.
So similar ways I've thought about it for myself or my daughter, or if other people were to talk about it. Because again, this could be a very real thing that happens in 10 years' time, whatever it may be in terms of time frame, where it's like, what do you say? Practically, if someone comes to you and it is or if you're thinking it's a level of emergency, then you need to interject with whatever is needed to get you to some sort of stable position, whether it's external support or a call or drugs, anything to get you to a a stable position.
Man up.
Well, yeah, and that's a danger. That's a danger which will come into this next phase of what I'm talking about. It's you need to be at a semi-rational state as opposed to a very heavy emotional state,
correct,
which I guess would be when maybe other people's described like bad mental health. I would also put it across as you're very emotionally charged, maybe emotionally driven. You're not really using your logical thinking brain on particular things. So do whatever it takes to get into a more rationally thinking brain. But exactly what you mentioned, then it's my recommendation or suggestion or conversation, or even to myself, would be just define it better. Just a better definition, I think, practically makes a lot more sense, because the better you can formulate the question about what the issue is, the better it is that the answer is going to become. Half the answer is a better formatted question. So again, for myself on, let's just say that 2 weeks ago, if let's just say it's kind of fictional because I didn't really think about it this way, but if I had time to stop and go, oh man, my mental health is bad, it should have been a better, but like, okay, what is that I feel? Oh, I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling coiled up. Okay, well, tired. Yes, you need to find more time to rest, or formats that you can rest in shorter bouts. 2, if you're feeling anxious, okay, we'll take some time away. Okay, so then I'm going solution mode, but it's this definition down into those particular things, which then you can have more targeted approaches. Either you can do something willfully, or you need that support externally. Cool, do so. But until you get to that definition, it's just foggy. It's just too foggy. You don't know what to do. It would be, again, the equivalent. Let's move away from mental health and just health in general, or like any other advice. If you just said, hey, go do a one-handed handstand, like me, like right now, if I hadn't asked you for a little bit of detail on that document that you sent, it would have just been like, oh, cool, I'm just going to go and do handstands and see if I can do a one-handed handstand. That's not going to be successful. I might fluke it.
Yeah.
But it's not.
One in a million.
Like, if I went, like, you know about it because you've learned about it and you've read about it. I haven't. And so I guess it's a prime example of kind of like in mental health. It's just another aspect of something. I don't even know how to break it down, how to look at it. So for me to ask you the question of like, oh, hey, how do I do I want to do a one-arm handstand. How do I do it? Is kind of the equivalent question of saying, hey, I've got bad mental health. How do I improve it? It's like, whoa, there's like a lot of underlying things underneath it. Yeah. Like, and I know you've talked about it, core, positioning, your practice, blah, 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 blah. So many things. But you need to kind of discover or get someone to help you discover what are the various things that you might need to break down to actually look at, oh, it's this that you need to focus on, or you need to do this, and this to kind of improve from it. So I think that was more so the practical nature of it all, was you just need to define it better. And you can either do that yourself or get external support to help you do that. That's straightforward as I can think about it.
Yeah. Do you want to know what the main thing it was that helped me get out of my rut?
Your rut?
Yeah, when I was 15 and 20. Going to the gym. Going to the gym for the first time.
There you go. Gym fixes everything, folks.
Yeah, it gave me the confidence. I had some wasn't the core problem that I had, but certainly just like body issues. Was really skinny. Still am pretty skinny, but was skinnier if that's possible.
And I'm currently trying to get skinnier right now.
Yeah, and what was it? Was it the increased perhaps testosterone from going through, just confidence of seeing like, oh shit, I can actually change my body, so maybe I can change this thing as well. Lots of things. Who could have been any number, even just perhaps going around to a place where there was more women around. Who knows? But that was the one thing that like really gave me then the confidence or the impetus to go, all right, I'm going to fix this other problem that I have and actually do something about it. So that was, that advice is not going to work for everyone, but that's what worked for me. Yeah, that's what helped. So
the other one I was going to add, and this is unconventional, and some people will not align to this, but I don't give a fuck. I think it is in some ways good. I would say also learn to recognize that what you think is either hard work or challenging on suffering, and again, within reasonability, is not a problem of what you think it actually is, but it's rather a poor alignment of what you are doing. And I guess the way that I would describe that is, if I was to, from this point onwards, decide, you know what, I want to become a chess grandmaster, and I did it for caveat, I suck at chess. This is known. I lose my friends all the time. But if I decided right now, moving forward, I'm going to become a chess grandmaster, I could become better. Like yes, in practicing and doing it, I would become better. I would probably say I could, see that in a couple of years' time, I would try to do some championships and challenges, and then get smashed. I'd get like destroyed, and maybe I'd reflect back on it over a couple of years and go, man, this is terrible. Like I put in so much time, I didn't get good at this. blah, 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 because I aim to do this particular thing. I could make a claim that at that point I'd be like, oh, my mental health deteriorating. Like I'm giving this my all. And again, you could define that down to whatever it looks like. But I would actually say step back and I go, there's kind of an alignment problem there. Because I don't give a fuck about chess. I don't care about it. The reason I'm not doing it is because I don't particularly care about it. And I bet you plenty of money that there would be younger kids, in fact, probably adults at our age or maybe even older, where you're just not aligned to what you actually truly want to do. And there's a very hard distinction between what people tell you to do and society tell you to and what you actually want to do. Case in point for yourself. You're doing a lot of things that both society don't want you to do. Not sure about your parents, but I think society, right? Everyone looks at you probably and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
As evidenced by my insult at the,
at the
definition.
But even you yourself, as you were saying, you've had some times over the last couple of years where you said like, oh shit, I'm not working. Should I be working and earning and doing these things? This is the general expected
Contributing
thing.
more to the community.
But there's other things that you're doing which highly aligns you to the fact that you're wanting to become a really good handstand. And in the way that you use that language, it's an important thing for people to do. There are, let's just say, more than 50% of society right now, there's probably in jobs or doing things which largely for a paycheck, largely because society deemed it to do so, largely because when you were younger, maybe your parents said, oh yeah being an engineer, a scientist, a doctor, a lawyer, these are all good things, so do it. You do it for a while and you're like, what the heck, why am I doing this? And you then, maybe you do have to work hard, you do have to go through challenges, there is the expected suffering that comes with some of these things in terms of learning or doing or practicing, whatever it may be. And then you go, fuck, like I'm mentally challenged because I'm having to do this and I can't go and be with my family and do these sort of things. And then you'll attribute that to bad mental health. And I put part of this to, no, it's bad alignment. Because if you are doing something that you really, really enjoy and you fully care about it, you won't give a fuck that you're going through like hard, challenging times or you have to go and rehab or prehab this or having to spend 6 hours working out every day. Some people would look at it and be like, what the hell? I'm not going to do that. That's like crazy. Why I can't do this? But if you're really aligned to it, you don't think like that at all. It actually completely upends that definition in your mind. Again, with some of the handstand work that you do, I think a lot of, if you told people, oh yeah, this is what you have to do, they'd be like, nah man, like I'm not going to do that. That's ridiculous. But sure. For you, it's like, oh no, it's aligned to a thing I want to do. You care about the outcome. You care about that modality of movement. There isn't a concern. It's more of it actually feeds your day as opposed to taking away from it.
Yeah. Well, it's, I guess like, once you've got the problem or whatever it is that you're trying to work on fixed or not fixed, but defined, then it's, how would you go about rectifying that or doing that? And probably a lot of that is the self-talk of, I was listening to the handstand cast recently. I started to get back into that, and they were talking about one of the things that they encounter with people is like, I can't handstand, and it's they're going to handstand coaches, so obviously they want to do it, but it's this period of where it takes a couple of years to get even semi decent at it, especially if you're starting from zero or sub-zero if you're barely exercising your life. And one of the things they like to say is like you need to add a word to that, which is I can't handstand yet. And this is one of those ones where it's like it's not necessarily good trying to live in the future. I can't handstand yet. You're almost saying you're looking for this future thing and not appreciating what you're at the moment. But I think it's a way of solving that problem of wanting something but not having it yet. So it's like, all right, well, just add yet onto the end of this. And there's probably other words which are unhelpful to have as well in your repertoire of should is probably right up there. Maybe even if, like, if this happened, I could have done this, or if this, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, that kind of aspect of meditation, of quieting the mind is probably pretty good with that. But if you're super lonely as well, it's not, I'm not sure meditating all the time is gonna help with this.
No. Because one of the examples I was actually running through my mind was, I'm trying to think of like a pushback or someone out there thinking it. Let's just say they're sitting at a rental home. They're barely making weekly payments. They're struggling with that, no relationship, hard to find some sort of job. again, in that circumstance, if you say, well, no, just break it down, bad mental health, just break it down. What's the problem? They'll say, well, I need more money to live, and I need more this, and I need more that. And it's all very true statements. Like, there's nothing to take away from that. But the call out there is face the reality. What are you expecting? Because if you're set your expectation of what you're thinking of, well, whatever, my friend just bought a new house, or I'm seeing these people have kids and I've got none of those, and I'm a failure to society, it is completely, utterly useless to think to yourself that your expectation should be that you're going to do that, the next day or something like that. That's not going to happen, right? 9 months is going to take for you to get a kid. You can't speed that up, right? But there are the I guess breakdowns of those things where it's maybe monetarily, maybe it's relationship, like many people have stumbled in the past, and going, you're also not unique. It's also not a unique problem. Most of humanity has gone through the same issues that most people have, and largely there are ways to break it down and do something about it. Does that take away from the challenge that exists about it? No, but that also shouldn't be the expectation. It shouldn't be a case of, oh yeah, everything's just completely easy, and once you define it, there's no longer any hardness. No, like there's hardness still there. It's at least what are some of the things and steps that you need to go and take to do it. But I also like that aspect of mental health as a practical case, when you feel, again, big wide terms, down or not so significantly depressed that you have to go and do, something dramatic, which again, that happens. But it is just going to the point of, it's also not unique. Like if I'm feeling this way, it's a large part that probably a hell of a lot of other people are going that way. And it actually makes it a little bit better. This happens in comedy all the time, right? A lot of comedians go through a lot of pain and become really good comedians because of the pain, in that they share a lot of things and stories, which a lot of people relate to, right? And get a little bit of comedy out of it. Yeah. But in truth, there's a lot of pain and shared suffering that you feel is unique that isn't, that a lot of people have to deal with. Yeah.
It just made me think our friend Joey is like such a shit human being that he's probably got a lot to share. Like he's going to be a great comedian.
Actually, there was what I just heard about it this morning, that they moved to a new place, our mate, and on the move they lost the bolts for their cot that they purchased, and the baby should be delivered in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So they're thinking they're going to have to buy a brand new cot because they literally cannot find the bolts, and it was lost somewhere along the line, right? So something like again, an example like that is you could, and depending on your state, could be like, man, this is tearing me down. You could think about it that way. You could think about the way that you attack that particular, I guess, path is a very different thing. The only last thing I was going to say for practicality for mental health, attitude. Attitude totally changes the way that you will look at things. If you are mopey, hungover, don't train, and something happens to you, sure, it's probably more than not the generalization of mental health is going to bring you down. Mm-hmm. But if you're been going hard in terms of training, hard in your sleeping schedule, eating really well, the same thing will come up, and honestly, your attitude will be distinctly different to it not being. And same human, I can tell you myself. There's a completely different way that I might handle something in an anti-fragile way when I'm all guns blazing, all engines firing really well, and when I'm not. It's a very different way of handling things. And if that's within myself, again, I'm not unique. There's everyone. Everyone would go through that. So more specifically, practically, find the things that do make you giddy up a little bit. Sure. I remember writing this like years ago. I remember it was music. There was specific songs that I remember being like, okay, if I want to get pumped up for the gym, play a couple of these. If I need to get into some work mode, this is the sort of things. I don't have now that specific song choice, but I certainly have the particular genre to do it. At the moment, if I want to work, and I want to work hard, and again, it might be because, oh shit, you got to get this done by the next hour, or there's a lot to do, or it's late and I don't want to do this, but I still got to get done. You can make excuses. You can think that's going to get you mentally down, I guess, in that particular context. For me, the key thing for me would be like, cool, right now, it's Fred again for work at the moment. I'll put Fred again, London Rooftop Edition. It's an hour and 20 minutes, something like that. Yeah. Maybe a drink, maybe some water. Dude, I will I would genuinely work that entire period of that music that goes through. Yeah, kind of recognizing the song is there, and it would just go in a flash, and I'll just do the work. That for me works. That's like whatever boundary I've got to get over, whatever challenge. It's like it does help. Not unique. I'm sure most people have that or find that. Whatever it may be, do it, because again, it's a little hump into doing the action that also at the end totally helps out with something like mental health or being sad. That's the final one from my practicals. Okay. Action. So one thing that I'll steal it again off Chris Williamson, but it kind of applies here for mental health, in that talking about being better isn't actually getting better. Writing a list down of things to do to get better isn't getting better. Talking to a friend about it is a little bit better, but it's actually not doing the thing to get better. A lot of times it's doing the thing. It's actually doing the actual deed that gets you from, the depressive, the sad state, like the talking. If one of the aspects that's getting you down is mentally, I guess for females, or talking to females, or vice versa, talking to males, and you go, fuck, I can't do it. It's do whatever it takes to get you to the action mode. And that, look, realistically, if I'd said it to you, to your 15-year-old self, you'd still might have been like, fuck up, I'm not going to go and talk, I'm not going to do it. But what is the first little step that you could potentially do? And that might just be, for 15-year-olds of today, try talking to an AI girl, try practicing with someone, try doing whatever. Maybe go to a yoga class, do all these things where it's just a little step and the next step and the next step, because it's in the doing that gets you to improve that particular health aspect of it, as opposed to just ruminating, because that's not helping you out.
That's probably more the differentiation between the bad and the positive side. So, really overweight guys comes into the doctor or something. He's like, doc, I got bad mental health or whatever. I need help. The recommendation probably shouldn't be to really work on the positive things, maybe avoid the negative things first. And that's kind of, I feel, maybe what the mental health side of things would be. Start avoiding the people who are bringing you down, the emotional vampires perhaps. Figure out what exactly is your main problem, start with that and address that. And then the things which actually improve your mental health, we were saying before, there's no real word for positive mental health training. There probably is, but we just don't call it that. It's affirmations, it's positive thinking, and this falls more into self-development rather than, it's not like increase your mental health.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a good point.
It's more, it'll be religious or spiritual or manifestation or things like that, and it's probably improving your mental health, but it's not. But we don't.
Yeah, it's
we
not
don't
seen that
that
way. I think the way I define it is, in at least the last few months when I've been writing it down, and some of my notes is becoming more anti-fragile. I like viewing it in that way.
Sure.
Becoming more anti-fragile.
Yeah. Last couple of things here. So Naval Ravikant is interesting guy because he's one of those ones who it's like he had a brief spate of podcasts and everyone's like really getting into him, and then he just kind of disappears. Which I actually quite thought was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. But he says, for a calm mind, you don't want to meditate an hour a day. Like no one actually really wants to do that. But you just want to be in that state all the time. How do you do that without doing that? He calls it understanding is his phrase for doing it. And his real main recommendation is to not focus on yourself. It shouldn't be I and me. It'll be like you and we or something like that. And he says for himself, and he seems to be one of the people who are just through his talkings, I've been like, yeah, he's probably the most equanimous. He's got that tranquility, that calmness. And if he's saying he gets that via focusing more on other people, either helping them or I assume helping them. Maybe he's not. Maybe he wants to destroy them. I don't know. But that perhaps is the thing that and whether you can get that. You were just talking. I even wrote down here. I'm not sure it's possible to have that all the time. That kind of tranquility. Perhaps you could even call that focus. Maybe that can be next week's episode. An episode on like focus.
Okay.
You were talking about that then. But there's also things that I think can take away from that. And talking of that, what have you got to avoid? Politics. Jesus Christ, people, you got to avoid politics. That if you want something that will destroy your mental health. So I'm not, Trump got elected recently. Nope. I've tried to avoid it as much as I possible. Didn't watch any of the debates or anything like that. There's one thing I will get into though, and that is people going having fucking mental breakdowns.
All the libs crying away.
Oh my God. So I just went on and, I'll do this in either way. It's I just don't see as much of this from if like a left-wing person wins, and then I assume there's some right-wing people having mental breakdowns.
True.
But
just not seeing it.
Perhaps they don't post it and, have a video of them in the car just shouting.
Yeah, you're not talking like Jimmy Kimmel crying on TV, he's doing a show.
So much crazy shit, man. And it's like if someone else can affect you that mentally hard, and it's a fictional, like Donald Trump is almost fictional in my mind. Like he is just so absurd, such an absurd person. The way he speaks, everything about him. He was so far from removed. Let alone if you're in the US, there's people outside of the US having mental breakdowns. Yeah, because he won. You gotta avoid politics, man. And this is one thing Naval actually doesn't do well, because I saw him tweeting about politics on Twitter.
I've got a confession. Jesus. I've got a confession to make. I think this applies really well. This applies really well. It's again about politics, because you can make the statement, but Karen, it's I want to know what's going on. Sure, I want to connect with it. It has some sort of impact, especially in the US, right? Maybe in other places across the globe. Karen, it does. Yes, but is it going to be detrimental to you personally more than it is going to be beneficial? And that happened to me on election day.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'd been avoiding heavily most political stuff. I told you, I've been not listening to Tom Bilyeu stuff because it's a lot political. Yeah. Haven't really been reading things apart from basically 24 to 40 hours beforehand. And what did I do? I consumed the shit out of Joe Rogan's interviews with Elon Musk and Trump.
Yeah.
All this stuff that I started listening. I was checking X all the time with information that was going on. And I was checking the results like live every like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I could have, in the moment, talked myself into like, I need to know what's going on because it's important. It's important to the world. Looking at it today, right now, I didn't. If I had not done any of that, nothing would have changed right now. There's nothing I can't influence it any ways. But that particular day or days, my mental health was pivoted. It was more focused. I was more aggressively thinking about these other things as opposed to other things. Can I say that it affected me like that detrimentally? Probably not.
See, right? I think that's all right. It's
all right. It is all right.
That sounds more fun.
However, I think that is where you can be lost in you can make certain reasons as why it's positive, but to in fact delete it out is the net positive. And I think you have to look at a lot of things in that way for mental health, because just as I can say, let's take it for instance, like something a bit strange, maybe skiing. Let's say skiing for me. And I go, this is freaking phenomenal, cool group of people, and they all ski and they go every like month, and when I get to go there I get to connect and interact, and I really like to socialize with them and la 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 la. However, that also means that I put myself maybe pressure on my work and money and family and all these things, but I go, but it's got these pros. If that scenario, if I really objectively looked at it, I think I could find there would be more cons of going in the positive, and I'm glorifying the positives, minimizing the cons. And then it will be veiled and hidden that in a few months' time, I'd go, man, my mental health declining, or I'm not connecting with my family. Yeah. It's like, motherfucker, because you're doing this. Like, this is the reason why you're doing that. But it doesn't appear that way because we glorify those positives and kind of leave the cons to the side and not realize where the effect is actually taking, especially you as a person looking at it, because externally, it becomes real easy. And maybe that's another one. If you think you've got, and easier said than done, but if you think you have an issue in mental health and you either want to define it or haven't defined it, I do think finding a trusted confidant or people who talk about it is good, because they can hopefully quickly get you to the reality of what it actually is that you're looking at. Because a lot of the times it's just you are hidden behind the point of view of yourself and you're not looking at it super rationally, super objectively, which for a lot of things, not everything, but for a lot of things would minimize what that problem is in your mental health space. Because I guess my final point was going to be like, 3 sections of mental health. Let's just say I'm going back to the full big definition.
Okay.
You got the first section, very like acute critical. It's like this is emergency mode, and you like in that aspect, go bananas. Do everything that you need to do to get out of that section. That's your I'm about to commit suicide. There's some other issues that are happening. Fuck it. Go get yourself looked after. Get yourself hormonally well. Speak to the people that you need to. Do that. There's nothing else that I'm suggesting in that manner. Then I would say there's like another section where it's kind of attached to maybe like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where hey, I'm really depressed because I don't have housing or I don't have food. There are some immediate things I think you need to do there. Some of the conversations were like, oh, well, wish it better and take some actions. Yes, do apply, but man, you need some help. Like you need some help to get on your feet and be gentler on yourself in those moments, because it is an issue. It's trouble. You need the support whenever you can get it. And some of the things I think we talked about apply. Some don't. You just need to go and get supported to get out of that state. And then there's probably 80-85%, no, maybe less because there's third world countries. Let's go 60% of humanity where we talk about this mental health issue because whatever, my dog ran away, or I only got to run 4 times out of 5, or I twisted my ankle. That is okay. That section, if you're there, 1, well done, you're lucky to be in that section, and 2, it's like, yep, you can start breaking these things down into skill, attitude, what you need to do, ask the question better, take some actions, go down the path of deeds. There's solutions to that particular section, which for the most part, and for most people who are listening to this, most mere mortals sit in that scale.
Yeah. I don't have much to add to that other than one of the books I read recently, East of Eden, John Steinbeck. Great book. Go read it.
8 out of 10.
Eight,
yep, top 10 at least.
I think I said 8.5. Yeah. The characters in that book, they all have these kind of sufferings and woes, and this was written in the 20th century, 19th/20th century, and so people are just dying left, right, and center of that book. Just bang, 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 bang. And they have all sorts of bad things going on with them. And you can see the ones who kind of get through it pretty well. And they're the ones who are more rational. They're more calm. They don't, get into positions or things that are rising their blood pressure unnecessarily. Watching all those memes of Donald Trump and libs and people crying, having mental breakdowns, memes and stuff. That didn't rise my blood pressure. I was just laughing my ass off for most of it. And from tomorrow onwards, I'm probably not going to even bother looking at it again. And I hope to hear nothing of politics for a fair while afterwards. I will go out of my way to avoid it.
Yep.
The people in this book, I think, did similar things. And it was the ones who really struggled. One, they had, some psychological issues. There was sociopaths, psychopaths. I don't know if that can be mentally fixed. I'm not sure about that. And they were the ones who really struggled with loneliness. And then there was these kind of mid characters who you could see that they had problems in their life, but they were exacerbated by themselves. It was their own thinking, their own bullying of themselves, beating themselves up for things they have or haven't done. And those are the ones where it's like, oh, okay, that's probably almost the most needless suffering because it's just inflicted upon yourself. So things like, therapy, even just talking on this podcast, I know for myself, talking things out loud. Even actually one thing I've started doing recently is, even though it's kind of crazy, when I notice myself beating myself up about something, I just start talking. I just talk about whatever. It can be about that or it can be start singing, whatever. I find that another way of not meditating, but keeping the mind occupied with something else. And, if I need to fix those things, then I should go and fix them when I'm not emotional, when I'm not have, rise blood pressure or and in a state where it's not much productive is going to get done. It's, the actions, instead of being like, all right, I'll set aside time to do this. I'm going to work on this. I'll, fix this. It'll be like, I need to go out right now and fucking go to the casino and talk to a girl there and then go out and then not actually do it and then beat myself up harder or something like that. Yeah, so, yeah.
You need to be focused. You need to be focused.
Yep, that's
the Immortal Lads, which is going to be
pretty much it.
Yep, focus is going to be the next topic. I think we'll do that. Any particular space within domain within focus?
I'll give some more details for you later, but
okay.
the
So
people at
I look
home.
forward to that. In Modern Lines for that. We do that live on Sundays at the moment, 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time.
This is correct.
For awareness, you're
Correct.
out in base here, Brizzy. If you've got any other thoughts on topics or ideas, feel free to send them through.
Yeah,
I want to give a
we'd
shout
love
out
to
with
know.
something you might not have seen. Maybe you checked, maybe you didn't. But we don't often talk about stuff like this. We got our first sponsorship request, like an official proper one, just the other day. Did you see it?
No.
It came through the email. Someone reached out. Pretty large Instagram following. They're from the US. They wanted to sponsor us, pay some money for us to talk about the particular product that they wanted us to put. And I replied back and I was like, look, appreciate it. Thank you very much. So I was like, really cool. We don't take sponsorships. We don't do that in this podcast because we do these things. But it was actually interesting because it was like a sizable company. I was like, damn, I'll show you this after. If you didn't see it, I'll show you quickly.
Sure.
But that kind of leads me to say is we do this podcast without any sponsorships, without any support from external parties. We do the support by the audience that listens to it through the Valley for Valley model. So you can send this through Time, Talent, Treasure. Time, obviously, you can listen to us, share this with other ones. Talent, you can some of the stuff that Petar sends through, right through with boostergrams, but in other ways, you can send through queries, ideas, books, thoughts of what we should talk about.
AI things that you think would be interesting to us. Models. I mean, I still use Peter's template sheet, which he helped me with timestamps
Correct.
a fair while ago. So
Correct.
many things like that. If you hear us bleeding about a problem that we have and you
Send
can
it
fix
through.
it,
It helps us out.
would love that.
Yeah, and Treasure, of course, sending through streaming if you're listening to any of the new podcasting platforms out there. Sending through Boostgrams, which is the ability to send sats with messages attached as well, if you would like. It is on the new podcasting platforms out there, like Fountain, like Castamatic. I had a conversation about this yesterday, just with a couple of people who I was trying to explain, what are these platforms and what it is that you get like supported by. Again, I tried to explain, look, we have a PayPal and you can support us our way. But the Valley for Valley model is let's just say a more juiced up, a more value for the individuals and users than a Patreon goes, because it's a very direct way. And it plays around with Satoshi's Bitcoin, something that we do see becoming more part of society, of the thread of society as time goes on.
Let's go Bitcoin. Let's make Byron rich.
Pump it up. Boom, boom, boom.
I'm sick of being pre-rich.
He wants to go post-rich. We got to get some of these robots coming on the podcast. All right, we'll leave it there for now. I don't think there's any questions we want to take from the tube at all.
Didn't see anyone. Nah. Although I did see Patricia and Dimilix jumping in, so thanks for
appreciate it. Thank you for jumping on the live. Leave it there. Immortal Lights. Be well. Juan out.
Karen out.
Bye.
Good.
Good.
Very good. Ow. All right, I'm gonna end it here. Peace.